Today we are talking to Courtney Skinner, an expert outdoorsman from Pinedale, Wyoming. Welcome, Courtney.
Well, good morning, and thank you.
You're welcome. So you grew up here in Pinedale. What was it like growing up in Pinedale with a family of 6 athletic brothers?
Well, of course, it was in the 1940s when all 6 of us were here or gone or out. The 2 of the brothers were born here. The other 4 of us came here from the Pitchfork Guest Ranch over in Meteechee area and across there. And our dad had a guest ranch out on Soda Lake north of Pinedale. And we lived out there. He made us skis. That's how we started to ski and everything. And then the 1940s came and World War II. So 2 of the brothers, older brothers, of course, were in the Navy, and the 3rd brother, Bob, university and then out. And so it was an intermixed in a very small locality and house when we moved to town there. Mm-hmm. And our dad then did construction for the war effort across in Utah and Wendover and various other spots. But I can vividly remember when we would, all 6 plus and nephew, our other nephew of Dad's brother, Boyd Skinner, and the 3 others were in the service when they would come home. And our mother at that time had 3 stars for servicemen in the window for that time. When they were here or when they were home, it was, we lived in a very small house, but it was always adventurous. It was always learning. Fortunately, we had the great outdoors to get out of it and grow up with. Then the 2 younger brothers and the 3 of us, Mother always used to say I was the oldest of the 2nd family. Had that time, and I become then, as they were off in college in the service, become their 2 younger ones, mentor, if you would call it that. And, but it was a great time to grow up. There was not all of the distractions that we certainly have nowadays. And we each in the main street of Pinedale was a North Gang and South Gang. And on our side, we had more willows and lots of stick horses. And in fact, I had 100 head of stick horses cut from the willows out in Cooley's Field. The other side had a little more capital, and they had the bigger forts, and the slab forts. So there was always a rivalry of North and South Pine Street, but nothing ever serious as far as the growing up. But also a lot as the war ended in the 1940s, late 1940s, we had lots of war surplus equipment come into the thing, and from rubber rafts, and all of us growing up that time from the life rafts would shoot the falls at the Highland Ditch, and we were really out in the outdoors a great deal, both as skiers and skiing, and sponsored by Seneca Fana that had a drugstore and that. He would take the ski team and we would go up to Jackson and compete from jumping and that, but also up to White Pine and Sunny's Hill and Stay. So it was terra incognita, where we now have the subdivisions of Carmichael Hills, and across there were the terrain, and we were all Nanook of the North with our snowshoes and the winter camping and that. And I think that gave us a good outdoor background.
That sounds like an amazing childhood. So you and your brothers actually opened a wilderness school for kids in the 1950s until the 2000s. And I'm just wondering, how did you get the advanced outdoor skills that qualified you to teach these teenagers?
Well, of course, the environment brought in a lot of the outdoor skills. That we grew up with our father, who was in the guest business, outfitting, guiding, and hunting.
So he taught you a lot.
And he taught us a lot, and we learned from that. He was a government trapper, worked for the Biological Survey, and he came into that country in the control of the wolves and the grizzly bears. And of course, in the Pitchfork Ranch in Wyoming was owned by a man by the name of Belden, who was out in New York City, a very famous photographer. And he raised lots of animals. His date of coming to Pinedale by the Mollering family was that he brought a buffalo from the Pitchfork Ranch. And they date the Skinner's arrival in the 1930s to the arrival of the first buffalo in town that had been there. But each of us grew up then in the guiding and outfitting business and the guest ranch, so that gathered some of our business right from the start. All six brothers and our dad, and of course always enthusiastic by our mother. And we moved then after in the 1946, 1947 to Meadow and Burnt Lake, where our camp started.
Okay.
As we grew older in college and back from the military and so forth, we decided the idea of youth and what a opportunity the Wind River Range offered for that type of program. And we were the first in the wilderness schools and the outdoor schools do it. We later helped Outward Bound in their program, the first one in Colorado, as well as Knowles on the other side with their curriculum.
What was your favorite part about running the youth camp? And then also your least favorite part?
Well, certainly the most favorite part was the youth, the boys and the girls and even the adults in all of that program. Because it was an opportunity that we don't see anymore around the country for them to experience the type of programs that Skinner Brothers had to offer. And certainly the rafting, which we will probably never ever see again of the log wilderness rafts on the Green River. The brothers that taught, if a young kid or a girl didn't like one of the brothers, there was always three more around to do and to associate with, and that. And mostly the country. That was to introduce them to the outdoors. I think of in a book now that's been out for some time called The Last Child in the Woods. And the students came from all over the world due to our travels and our contacts and things. So we would have them from Spain and South America, as well as all across the United States and Pinedale, Wyoming with it. That was to see that they were not going to be the last child in the woods, and learn those experiences and an ideal setting. The Wind River Range probably was as good a teacher as any of the brothers could be. Least favorite, like a mountain story called the Long Rifle in this museum, and I think you have that rifle in the museum of a trapper and fur trader, and that was their departure. When we started, it was 30 days of that, and you took them through the things in the mountains, and that taught them the companionship of their fellow campers. and each of the brothers. And when the 30 days were over, I think the party was probably the least favorite, because now you had a group in training, and I think of the story of the long rifle, where he got on his horse up at Meadow Lake and in the cottonwoods, and they had been ambushed by Indians. And as he wheels his horse and he's buried his friend that he had traveled through, all he could say was, "So long, mountain man." And that's, I think, was the least of my favorite times.